Thank you everyone for joining in. Uh, Air pollution is fast becoming one of the India's biggest health and environmental challenges today. जब भी हम प्रदूषण की बात करते हैं तो दिल्ली का नाम सबसे है जहां प्रदूषण एक गंभीर समस्या है, जिनमें से एक है महाराष्ट्र, जहां प्रदूषण का मुद्दा चर्चाओं में कुछ खास जगह नहीं बना पाया है। और इसी बात को ध्यान में रखते हुए आई फॉरेस्ट लेकर आया है स्मॉग टेल सीजन 2। We launched this information campaign last year and spotlighted 6 rapidly growing cities in North India. We examined air quality in Patna, Guwahati, Baddi, Chandigarh, and Meerut through webinars, discussions with experts, putting out our analysis, and engaging with local media. In season 2 of this campaign, taking this solution driven dialogue to Maharashtra's emerging centers into the cities of Thane, Amravati, Nagpur, Aurangabad, and Bhiwandi, हमारा आज का कॉन्वर्जेशन अमरावती के एयर क्वालिटी को लेकर है। आई एम श्वेता एंड ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ आई फॉरेस्ट आई वेलकम अवर एस्टीम्ड पैनलिस्ट्स and participants in today's webinar. We are honored to have with us Dr. Harish Phuleria, Associate Professor, Environmental Science and Engineering Department; Shri Kishor Rithe, Founder, Satpuda Foundation, Member of Maharashtra State Board for Wildlife; and Shri Mohan Atalkar, Special Correspondent, Delhi Loksatta. Daily Loksatta. I would now like to request my colleague Dr. Pratima, Director Air Pollution, to present her findings about Amravati. She will then go on to moderating a discussion with our expert panel, after which we will open the floor to questions. So please feel free to drop in any question in the chat box. Over to you, Pratima.
Thank you, Shweta. And I welcome all the panelists today on this webinar. I'll just share my slides. Give me 2 minutes. Please let me know if you're able to see my slides or not. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, great. So today we are gathered here to talk about air pollution, which is one of the major concerns currently in India, be it a seasonal aspect or be it any episodic aspect. Air pollution has been a concern. And currently, due to winter season, all the cities are facing major challenges when it comes to air pollution. However, our focus today is not on any big cities or metro cities. However, we are going to talk about a little bit smaller cities compared to the metro. Because we have seen that, whenever the winter season comes, the focus is usually Delhi or Maharashtra or Bangalore, and we seldom talk about smaller cities. So our initiative of Smog Tales is basically to focus on smaller cities and create awareness among citizen groups. We understand the science, we understand what are the challenges, but does it get communicated to the citizen groups in a manner that they understand? And that is what Smog Tales is going to do today. So starting with Amravati, I just want to share a couple of pictures of the city. But before I talk about these pictures, I also want to highlight that this year Amravati was ranked as first city, the top city in category 2 for achieving the norms and the standards under the National Clean Air Program. So technically, Amravati has performed really well in last 5 years to reduce its pollution level. However, is it enough? Because as we see in this picture, transportation is a huge challenge. Polluting industries is one of the major challenges. And apart from that, the legacy waste, the waste management is also a growing issue as Amravati is also growing and urbanizing. Today's air quality levels were 169, which is not good, but it's better than Mumbai, I would say. So this is where Amravati is currently. So if you're looking at the city boundary of Amravati, there are, you can see the blue color Shivneri Colony and Shri Shivaji Science Colleges are two continuous air quality monitoring stations, and the one marked in red are the manual stations. Now, I want to talk about the approach that we followed in analyzing the data of the continuous air quality monitoring stations. So, we looked at 3 years data, wherein we get data at the interval of 15 minutes, and we cleaned that data using Python, and we ensured that if the data is less than 60%, we have not included that in our analysis. And using various tools like Tableau, Power BI, and QGIS, we have analyzed the data. Now, talking about the results of the two continuous air quality monitoring stations, we saw that the PM 2.5 level of Shivneri station is within the CPCB standards, which is 40 microgram per meter cube. And this is the annual average of 2024. However, the PM10 levels are a bit high. And same for Shivaji Science College, PM 2.5 levels are within the standards, but PM10 levels are higher. Now, if we look at the CPCB thumb rule of the number of stations a city is required, currently there are 5 stations, 3 manual and 2 continuous stations. However, according to the CPCB standards, Amravati needs one more continuous air quality monitoring station. So that is the case. And also, if you look, they are not, distributed evenly across the city. So we need one more station and towards the southern part of the city. So that is a missing thing. Now, if we look at Shivaneri colony only, then we saw that the PM10 levels were high. They're like 22 points above the CPCB standards. However, PM 2.5, SOx, NOx, they are all within the standards. Now, we also looked at PM10 seasonal variation, and we can clearly see that winter concentrations are really high compared to summer and monsoon. We know that in monsoon, it rains and the dust settles down, the particles, and in winter, because of the inversion temperature, it's really high. Same for Shri Shivaji Science College. The PM10 levels were 30 points higher than the CPCB standards, and PM 2.5 SOx NOx were there within the standards. Now, here also, PM10 is really high in the winter season, and it's really within the standards during the monsoon season. So we can see that SOx, NOx, probably industries and vehicular pollution, there are a lot of implementation happening in terms of control measure, but the coarser particles, the bigger particles are definitely a challenge because PM10 is really high. I was also checking another website, AQI, and I was trying to understand what has happened in the last 1 month. And you can clearly see in the last 1 month, October was relatively clean. However, during the November season, the minimum, the average PM 2.5 concentration was around 15, but the maximum was 104, which is around November season. So definitely, as the winter has started, the concentration levels are increasing here. And if we look at here at the daily variation, it is very interesting to see that around afternoon time, 11 p.m. to night time, there is a concentration increase. Usually, the concentration increase we see around the peak is in the morning and then in the evening, but here, surprising, it's during midnight. So, what is happening? Whether the freight transport has increased or the construction activities are happening at the night time, we don't know that. Now, very interesting thing we observed that we did, because we did not had a good data availability in 2023. We only had for couple of months, and so we tried comparing winter season of November, December of 2023 and 2024, and we saw really good decrease in the values for PM 2.5, 10 SOx NOx. And we did the same for Jan Feb of 2024 and 2025. Now we have done this different months because of the non-availability of the data in the specific years. And here also we can clearly see that there has been decrease in PM and SOx NOx concentrations compared to the previous years. So definitely Amravati is performing well in terms of implementation or and ensuring that the air pollution activities are reducing. Now, we also tried looking at both stations, monthly average trends. So this is like all the 12 months. And it's very clear that during the winter season, the concentration spike is really high. For PM10, 38% increase is seen, and around January, 51% increase was seen in the concentration level. And same for the Shivaji Science College also. During January month, there was 75% increase in the concentration levels. And same for PM 2.5 also. So winter season, it's really challenging. We here also we looked at the trends, and you can see there's a clear trend observed for all the pollutants. Monsoon, there is a good dip around June, July, August, and then it increases during the winter season. Now, when we looked at the hourly trends, now we were also surprised because this is kind of a graph which is unlike the other cities that we see. Usually we see, peak during 7 to 10 a.m. and then we see peak in the evening time. Here, morning peak is not visible, only in the afternoon there is some increase in the concentration levels for PM10, and then again around 8, 9 p.m there's a sharp increase in the concentration levels. So this is a very peculiar peak that we are observing, and we need to try to understand what is happening on ground, whether the restrictions on the heavy vehicles is, taken off around 8 p.m. and hence there is a peak in the pollution levels. We were going through IIT Bombay's emission inventory and source apportionment studies, and it's very interesting to see that vehicular emission is around 21%. However, industrial pollution is also around 20%, and 20% is dust. And same for PM 2.5. We can clearly see that, industrial, vehicular, and dust are the high concentration levels. Now, what we did was we looked at a smart framework. Now, when I say a smart framework, smart framework is an control measure which is very specifically defined. What are the goals? What are we going to focus on? Whether it's measurable or not, whether, I'll be able to quantify if after implementation, reduction in the pollution level will happen or not, whether it's achievable, whether it's relatable, and it's time bound. Now, what happens in our action strategies prepared by the municipal corporations, they are not specific, they are not time bound, and they do not clearly specify who is responsible, how much time will it take to get implemented on the ground. And hence, based on the smart framework, we assessed the 28 control measures that are present in the Amravati's cleaner action plan. And what we found that 13 out of 28, 13 action plans focused on transportation sector. 5 action items, they focused on resuspended dust. 2 on industries, waste burning, domestic fuel, DG sets, and so on. Now, if after analyzing the control measures, we found that only 5 control measures out of 28, they follow the SMART framework. That is, they are clearly specified what What will we achieve out of the control measure if they are implemented? How much reduction? By when it should be implemented? Who will be responsible? Where the money is going to come for? So only 5 control measures follow the SMART framework. The rest 2%, 2 control measures, they follow 3 criterias of the SMART framework. However, 21 control measures, they follow less than 3 parameters of the SMART framework. So this is definitely something that is, concerning, and probably a scientific approach to develop control measures of any city should be considered. So, looking at the final highlights, probably I think that the continuous air quality monitoring stations were installed in 2023, and hence the data is only available from 2023. The average PM 2.5 concentration for both the stations stayed within the standards. However, PM 10 was higher in both Shivneri and Shivaji Science College by a factor of 1.35, 37, and 1.5. And now the challenge becomes that we are not able to do any trend analysis how the data was before the NCAP came in picture and what changes has occurred based on the continuous air quality monitoring station. So a trend analysis could not be carried out. Also, as we looked at the hourly trends, there was peak in the evening time. So we clearly need to understand what is happening on the ground, what are the activities that are creating the peak in the evening time. And out of the 28 control measures listed in the Clean Air Action Plan, only 70%, 17% of the control measures follow the SMART framework. Rest 75 are really weak in terms of, achievable, smart, reliable timeline wise. So these are the insights of the data that came out from the continuous air quality monitoring stations of the 2 stations in Amravati. So I'm gonna stop sharing here, and then now we will focus on the panel. Thank you again for joining us today on this panel, and I hope whosoever is watching this webinar, they will get aware of what is happening in the city of Amravati and what steps to be taken. So I'll first start with Dr. Harish. Dr. Harish, welcome. I want to understand that IIT Bombay did emission inventory and source apportionment studies, and clearly PM10 is a major challenge. So, what do you think? What should be the major source? What are the major sources currently, and why there is huge peak in the evening time, and what type of control mitigation should be adopted by the city?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pratima. I think this was a very nice overview of the air quality in Amravati based on the data that you had. Also, you have highlighted the report which was produced by IIT Bombay together with the CSIR Nagpur Niri, right? So, I mean, today if we really ask whether the problems of our cities are different, I mean, more or less, any journally like who is little bit aware about environment, air pollution, will say that many of the problems are similar, right? So, for example, people will be able to put fingers on vehicles, will be able to put fingers on industries, specifically more so in smaller cities because the regulations are a little bit kind of weaker, or let's say not as well enforced there. And then also biomass burning for sure, both which could be in the periphery, let's say open field biomass burning, while for example within the city limits it could be also the open waste burning because it is not being collected by the municipality, the city administration, and then ultimately this is being burned to clear, let's say, the place, right? I think those things are pretty much understandable. And I think most of the cities are grappling with those challenges, right?
Mm.
Now, as far as Amravati is concerned, I think like maybe couple of cues that we are getting from what you have presented and also what I can think about, though I have not specifically focused on Amravati's itself. Most of our studies have been on big cities, unfortunately or fortunately. Um, but let's say take some of the cues. For example, you showed the data from 2023.
Mm.
We do not know what was happening before. I mean,
Correct.
after a lot of effort, these two CA have now at least started, which is good. But
Right.
let's say if you want to see the impact of any kind of implementation of any controls, I mean, we have to have data, right, to later see. So I would say that most of our cities, if we are where we are, is also because we think the problem is not there because we don't have the data to support that the problem is there.
Right.
I'm really happy to see that the two CAQMS are already working in Amravati, and then also the IQ Air is now kind of placing so many sensors around the globe, not only in India.
Right.
But of course, as those who work in air pollution should know that we have to take these data with some understanding what the sensors provide, what the reference stations provide. Now, coming back to the two specific questions you said, one was like why we are seeing certain peaks at certain times. For example, you showed it, I think around 8 p.m. or something, right?
Right. Right.
So, I mean, there could be mixed regions because the sources are also mixed in these places. Uh, so, for example, it could be also relaxation or lesser enforcement of certain type of vehicles in the evening. That is definitely, you also pointed towards that. It is possible. I am not saying it's not possible, but at the same time it is also kind of also let's say contributed by any kind of other activities which can happen in the vicinity of those stations, right? So we should keep in mind these stations are points,
Mm.
and we are talking about the whole Amravati,
Right.
right? So, specifically, what is happening around the vicinity of that station is what is really going to help, I mean, understand those peaks, right? Because if
Correct.
it was a regional phenomena, I mean,
Mm.
both the stations should show the same thing, and you will not necessarily see a very high peak.
Mm. Mm.
So, I would say that waste burning possible during the winter because then people sometimes want to warm themselves, right?
Mhm.
And that would lead to PM 2.5, which contribute to PM 10 also. So I would
Agree.
say that it's just that it is accumulating together.
Mm.
And then the household activities, etc., can also increase. I
Right.
think one, at least particularly I feel, though I haven't really looked at the data in particular, even if you look at the previous IIT Bombay report,
Mhm.
if you look at all the area sources, which includes, I mean, most of them which you cannot count at major industry or line sources like vehicles. So it takes from crematoriums to bakeries to, all sort of sources. But I think what is really missing out is the informal industries.
Correct.
So I feel that that is something which potentially can also contribute, and I think we may need to look into that. Now,
Yeah.
coming to your last question about what do we need to do about it.
Mm.
Again, I think you already showed us. I think I really like this how you have evaluated it in terms of smart framework, measurable, quantifiable, relatable, right? And in a time frame, whether it is really focusing on the major source or not. So I think you have already kind of summarized it, what needs to be done. So I would say that basically we have to look at the short term and long term. There is actually it's almost not possible to really achieve something like a problem as complex as air quality. I mean, adverse air quality within a short time frame. I mean, these are basically like knee-jerk responses, maybe for other reasons, but not necessarily for a long-term solution for the problem we are facing.
Correct.
So now. I think we can think about enforcement. Let's say
Mm.
biomass burning, definitely like, especially winter period where you have mentioned that those episodes are coming. Can we ban that? Can we have a better enforcement,
Mm.
regulation,
Mm.
sensitization, like awareness? I mean,
Mm.
something like that, which
Right.
also relate to, let's say, the more optimal collection of the solid waste if that is necessarily like allowing, for example, those who are outside during the night. For instance, if I have maybe 1 or 2 more minutes, I will just add. So we conducted a study as part of another NCAP. It's a
Okay.
National Carbonaceous Aerosol Program,
Right.
Coalesce project, which has almost 20 partners, and across the country we did it.
Right.
And one of the goals was to understand the emissions coming from multiple sectors,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and also develop emission factors. See, one
Right.
of the things we estimated there was uh, the let's say the chowkidar police,
Mm-hmm.
like those the guards, like many people for security purpose who are put outside, right, who are
Correct.
outside, but there is no framework to support, for example, let's say their comfort to some
Yeah.
extent. So then what they do, they go for a basic, like free or let's say easily accessible material, can be any waste,
Solid waste. Yeah.
solid waste, and then they burn it. So this we really estimated. There is another study in Delhi which is done by Nagpur and other people in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
and they all highlight to this one fact that we have a diffused waste burning specifically in winter, which is happening,
Right.
while because the focus goes on major things like open field biomass burning because Delhi, and then you see all around uh, Indo-Gangetic Plain, but mostly the blame is put on Punjab and Haryana. But I mean, it goes there, and then it goes to, for example, also that adverse meteorology, which is true, which happens. But then
Right.
also these smaller kind of sources are also there, which are there.
Correct.
Then one thing definitely I want to kind of highlight in this, and those who are listening to this webinar, probably, I mean, should, I think about it at least. That is adulteration of fuels. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, when we are talking about vehicular emissions, and
Mm-hmm.
especially from the exhaust,
Mm.
so it is, I think, well documented, though not quantitatively, but there are, I mean, experiences from across cities, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure whether Amravati is immune to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, instead of just looking at the zero zero at the fuel station, I mean, people, consumer, customer should also look at the fuel density, because if the fuel density is higher than what it should be for diesel or petrol, that means the fuel is being adulterated, and that can lead to far more, like disproportionate emissions compared to a
Mm-hmm.
cleaner fuel, as we are using already BS6 kind of norms, right?
Right.
So
Right.
those are a few things that comes to my mind.
Mm.
Last one thing, I'm sure the other panelists will also allude to some of those, because if you look at the air, IIT Bombay's report, or as you also mentioned, PM10, which has a significant portion of the coarser particles, right?
Right.
Which means that they are not coming from combustion, most likely coming from mechanical processes, right?
Correct.
So, which means that these could be dust particles, larger particles, right? Which could either soil wind driven or resuspended dust or construction activities.
Correct.
Now, I'm not sure, Amravati, how fast it is growing. So if the construction is really at a high pace, then definitely it can contribute. But
Mm.
then resuspended dust also kind of identified in the previous, kind of examination. So then I think like across the world, if you look at the solutions, the paving our roads, making it greener, I mean, allow, for example, getting that rooted, the
Mm.
soil is not loose, and then
Correct.
also allow, a better view, and so I think those are also solutions we should be rethinking about.
Definitely. No, thank you for, extensively talking about each and every major sources and what needs to be done. I'll come back to you on more specific questions. Let me go to Shri Kishorji. Kishorji, you are from a citizen groups and you understand the nerves of citizens. I want to understand like how aware the citizens of Amravati are when it comes to air pollution, and do they know that burning waste in their vicinity, in their neighborhood, is creating environmental challenges? And more than that, they themselves are inhaling toxic air. So, how aware are the citizens in Amravati?
Yeah. So thank you, Pratima, uh, for giving me this opportunity. So let me highlight few things. So directly responding your question, uh, yes, Amravati citizens are very much aware and very sensitive to the issue of environment. and environment protection. If you know, Amravati citizens had run a massive plantation program, and when uh, government administration was actually they had proposed to fell trees, so citizens had protested and tried to protect all those trees, and then even filed the petition in the High Court, and High Court had given orders uh, in favor of plantation and then the tree protection. So that's how Amravati city has protected its tree cover. That's commendable, and credit goes to all the political leadership as well as the social movements that took place in Amravati. So
Right.
that way, Amravati citizens are quite aware about the issue of environment protection and also the issue of pollution. While saying so, before I make some comments on your report, first of all, let me clarify. You are discussing the results based upon the inadequate equipments. There are only two equipments they have put up at one at the Shivaneri, as you rightly said, one at the Shivaneri colony, and another is at Shivaji Science College. These are
Right.
comparatively very elite areas where comparatively there is less pollution, and still you have PM10 where there are coarser particles. So obviously I can very well say that it is out of dust because
Right.
there is enough dust on the roads of Amravati. um, I would say if the third equipment they install at Jaistam Chowk or Rajkamal Square, which is at the heart of the city, this entire data would be totally different. And that's what district administration and the municipal corporation has to do now. And through this webinar, I would request them to put up next equipment at the heart of the city and measure the and get the readings, and then that would be really a mirror for the Amravati city. So I
Right.
would say it is not the less polluted city. Definitely, if you increase the number of equipments and at least bare minimum three equipments, then you will have good data to make some comments.
Right.
So while saying so, I would say that whatever two uh, equipments they have put up and whatever the data you have analyzed here, there are reasons like Shivaneri colony is very close to one slum area, and where still people use the fuel wood for cooking purpose.
Okay.
And so that is one thing. Then the vehicular pollution is contributing a lot because there are roads, bypass goes close to the Shivaneri colony. And as far as the city is concerned, city traffic for the uh, heavy vehicles, that is closed, but in the evening that gets open. And that's how you could get this result at these two locations. So this is biased. If you just do the entire analysis on the basis of these just two equipments, so you have to install third equipment. And if more than three you can install, definitely you will get good data.
Right.
That's about the data collection. And uh, the major problem that I see in Amravati city is garbage, burning of garbage. And that's really serious, and where municipal corporation really need to implement high court orders. There are high court orders, but still these orders are not followed in most of the municipal corporations in Vidarbha region. And of course, in Amravati, I have seen a lot of places where uh, people still burn the garbage, and that takes place in the evening or in the early morning.
Right.
So definitely, this has contributed to this. So vehicular pollution, burning of garbage, and then third is the industrial pollution. So if municipal corporation can afford to install fifth equipment, I would definitely suggest the MIDC area, and because that is in the outskirt of the city. So that data probably has not grabbed by these two stations. So based upon inadequate equipments, whatever data you have generated, you are analyzing that. So it won't be appropriate to make comments about that. But this is my assessment on the basis of these just two equipments.
No, no,
Thank you.
definitely. I agree with you, Kishorji, that the number of stations installed in the city are not adequate to capture the kind of activities happening in the city. And that is why it is very difficult for us to do any trend analysis, yearly assessment, like what was there, how Amravati has implemented, and how much change has happened in terms of pollution reduction. And also, the hyper local information, as you mentioned, and Shivneri Colliery, there is a slum where people are still using firewood, and we don't know until and unless we do ground truthing. So definitely that's a major challenge. I'll definitely come back to you. There are some interesting points that you have touched upon, so I want to discuss on that. Let me go back, go to श्री मोहन जी। नमस्कार। मोहन जी, मैं आपसे
नमस्कार प्रतिमा जी।
नमस्कार। मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहती हूँ कि आप एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट कम्युनिटी को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, मीडिया हाउसेस। एंड
जी
हम जब भी कोई भी न्यूज़ आर्टिकल्स पढ़ते हैं या कोई इंफॉर्मेशन पढ़ते हैं न्यूज़पेपर में, तो वो हमारे लिए एक सोर्स ऑफ डेटा भी होता है। एंड क्योंकि हम ग्राउंड पे नहीं है, सो ग्राउंड के जितना भी इंफॉर्मेशन आता है वो आप लोगों से आता है। तो मैं ये जानना चाहती हूँ आपसे कि एनवायरमेंट सेक्टर में जितने भी मीडिया के लोग काम कर रहे हैं, क्या उनके अंदर क्लैरिटी है PM 2.5 क्या है, PM 10 क्या है, इन दोनों का असर कैसे होता है हमारे हेल्थ पे, और क्या क्या एक्टिविटीज ग्राउंड पे हो रही हैं जिनके वजह से इनके आंकड़े बढ़ रहे हैं PM 2.5 और PM 10 के। तो क्या ये बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग हमारे पत्रकारों में है?
जी देखिए, तो अमरावती शहर एक सामान्य और मध्यम वर्गीय लोगों का शहर माना जाएगा। मेट्रो सिटी की तुलना में यहाँ पर बहुत कम लोक संख्या है। करीबन 9 लाख की लोक जनसंख्या यहाँ पर है।
जी।
तो साहजिक स्वाभाविक रूप से यहाँ पर लोगों में अवेयरनेस उतना नहीं बढ़ पाया है, और उसकी तुलना में पत्रकारों में भी इतनी जागरूकता नहीं है। लेकिन विगत 10 सालों में एक बदलाव देखा जा सकता है कि जैसे स्वयंसेवी संस्थाएं बड़ी है, उन्होंने अवेयरनेस लाने का काम किया है। एक संस्था का नाम लेना चाहेंगे, जैसे सातपुड़ा फाउंडेशन है, नेचर कंजर्वेशन सोसाइटी है, या फिर और अलग संस्थाएं जो जुड़ी हुई है। तो उन्होंने ये जागरूकता लाने का काम निश्चित रूप से अमरावती शहर वासियों में और पत्रकारों में भी किया है। स्वाभाविक रूप से उसके कारण एक जागरूकता बढ़ी है। लेकिन महानगर पालिका जो है, म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन के एंड पर देखा जाए तो वहां पर बहुत ही धीमी गति से काम शुरू है। एक तो प्राइवेट लोगों को ये साफ सफाई का काम सौंपना, और दूसरी तरफ उनसे अपेक्षा करना कि वो पूरी सफाई शहर की कर दे, तो ये तो पॉसिबल नहीं है। लेकिन उस पर जो निगरानी अच्छी तरीके से करनी चाहिए और लोगों को जो अवेयरनेस बढ़ाना चाहिए, उसमें थोड़ी सी मेरे ख्याल से कमजोरी दिखाई दे रही है। और दूसरी बात, अमरावती शहर में मुझे एक बात जोड़ना चाहूंगा। किशोर जी ने निश्चित रूप से उससे बहुत बड़ी बात कर दी, लेकिन उसके साथ में ये भी देखा जाए तो अमरावती शहर में व्हीकल पोल्यूशन जो है वो सामाजिक रूप से बड़ा है। उसका रीजन है कि पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट में जो कमी है वहां पर निश्चित रूप से कि एक पूरे शहर में सिर्फ 15 सिटी बस होना ये पर्याप्त नहीं है। और ये बड़ी मेरे ख्याल से एक नाकामयाबी म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन की मुझे दिखाई दे रही है कि पूरा जो सिस्टम जो है व्हीकल का, वो 2 व्हीलर्स और 4 व्हीलर्स के लोगों के ऊपर हो रहा है। तो उसके कारण भी शाम के समय में जो ट्रैफिक बढ़ता है, उसके कारण भी पोल्यूशन का लेवल बढ़ते जा रहा है, ऐसे मुझे लगता है।
राइट। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात कही है आपने मोहन जी कि खाली 15 सिटी बसेस हैं, तो पब्लिक
जी
ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को मजबूत करने की जरूरत है। मैं कहीं एक
जी जी
जगह और पढ़ रही थी, तो टू व्हीलर्स, थ्री व्हीलर्स और फोर व्हीलर्स हैं, उनके मात्रा में जो बड़ी गाड़ियां हैं, जो ट्रैक्टर्स हैं, ट्रेलर्स हैं, कॉम्पैक्टर, डंपर्स, इनका पोल्यूशन लेवल बहुत ही ज्यादा है बाकी के कंपैरिजन
अच्छा
में। तो या तो बड़ी
जी
गाड़ियों का मूवमेंट बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है शहर में, एंड जैसा
जी
कि हमने देखा शाम के समय पीक ज्यादा हो रहा है, तो वो रिलैक्सेशन, जैसा डॉक्टर हरीश ने बताया कि रिलैक्सेशन है तो इसलिए मूवमेंट बढ़ गया, तो पोल्यूशन ज्यादा हो रहा है। और उस पे कोई रोक टोक नहीं हो रही है क्लियरली, या तो प्रॉपर चेकिंग नहीं हो रही है जो भी पोल्यूटिंग व्हीकल्स हैं। तो ये बहुत अच्छा आपने एक पॉइंट निकाला है। मैं आपसे एक और चीज पूछना चाहूंगी मोहन जी की, आपको लगता है कि मीडिया, पत्रकारों के जो लोग हैं, पत्रकार लोग जो हैं, उनका भी ट्रेनिंग होना चाहिए, सो दैट ये खाली ठंडी के सीजन में ही खाली आर्टिकल्स ना निकले कि प्रदूषण बहुत बढ़ गया है, बल्कि ये पूरे साल हमें इसके बारे में लिखते रहना चाहिए, सो दैट लोग इसके बारे में पढ़ें, जानें और समझें कि हर सीजन में प्रॉब्लम है, ये खाली एक ही सीजन का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। तो आपको लगता है कि पत्रकार भाईजनों का भी यहाँ पे अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करना चाहिए?
जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। आपने सही कहा कि लोगों में जानकारी का अभाव यहाँ तक ठीक है, लेकिन अगर पत्रकारों में भी कुछ संवेदनाएं नहीं होगी इस विषय पर, तो बड़ी विडंबना होगी। तो
हम्म।
इसीलिए पर्याप्त मात्रा में उसमें जानकारी होना, उस विषय का ज्ञान होना, और
हम्म।
उस पर क्या इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करना चाहिए, इसके ऊपर भी डिस्कशन अगर हो जाए और एक वर्कशॉप उनका किया जाए, तो मेरे ख्याल से अच्छी बात होगी। और
जी।
जो इस क्षेत्र में जो काम करने वाली जो संस्थाएं हैं, उन्होंने निश्चित रूप से इसमें इनिशिएटिव लेना चाहिए कि
हम्म।
पत्रकारों में इस विषय के ऊपर जो भी फोकस्ड इश्यूज है या फिर जो कमियां है, उसके बारे में चर्चा हो सके।
जी जी जी। थैंक यू मोहन जी, मैं आपके पास आऊंगी फाइनली। ओवर टू यू डॉक्टर हरीश। नाउ वी क्लियरली सी दैट वेस्ट बर्निंग इज अ प्रॉब्लम, even though there is a third party involved, but probably the regulations, the compliance part is really weak. So what do you suggest? What kind of regulations, compliance norms should be implemented? If you can, just think about it and discuss on that. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pratima. So I think it will be a little bit out of my, let's say, अब I can provide a perspective. मैं आपको अपना
Yes.
सोच बता सकता हूँ, but let's
बिल्कुल।
say how implementable and what will happen is that I think is we have to leave it to the government and the municipality. But
हम्म।
before I answer that, I just want to also kind of because I mean it's like we are assuming, हम लोग assume कर रहे हैं कि लोगों को चीजें पता नहीं है, या
हम्म।
फिर वो विंटर में अगर एयर पोल्यूशन के बारे में बोलते हैं, इफ द मोर न्यूज इज कमिंग इन विंटर, so why it is not around the year or so, because
हम्म।
the environment has the assimilative capacity, right? So we have to keep that in mind. I mean, if I give you an example, I will come back to your question, but let's say to put it in perspective, so when the monsoon comes, right?
हम्म।
I mean, should we be really thinking about air pollution, or should we be thinking about how do we really kind of prepare ourselves for any kind of potential flooding, any
हम्म।
kind of healthcare, kind of problems which could be coming because of, let's say, waterborne disease,
Right.
or let's say potholes which are created after that.
हम्म।
When, for example, winter comes, and that is a problem only in the Indo-Gangetic Plain northern places, inland areas like Nagpur, Amravati, and some of those. If you see, like, look at Mumbai, look at Kolkata, look at Chennai, all coastal cities, they don't have extreme variation in the winter versus summer, etc. So meteorology actually plays a role, but not as significant as it takes place in other places, right? So I think we should keep that in mind.
Right.
Now, coming back to your question, which is about, let's say, if the waste burning is something which also, I think Kishorji also mentioned, I think Mohanji also mentioned about it. So what can be done, right? So, I mean, this is what we teach in our class. This is, I think, is also a very intuitive journal, kind of, let's say, solution which anyone can think about. See, the source of the problem is where the solution is, right? So if we are saying that the waste is being burned, so why the waste is being burned? Because the waste is being generated. Now, if the waste is being generated, so either we have to have mechanism to completely take it, right? And it should be part of our standard collection system, transport system, and then disposal or sorting, segregation, and then ultimately like whatever minimal can, let's say, go to the landfill or some dump place. But what is happening is at the same time we are grappling with so many issues. Our and as I think Kishorji mentioned, like this is privatized, right? It is given to a third party. So definitely enforcement, kitna nigrani hum kar rahe hain. I mean, that is probably the case for everything where, like a third party is doing, right? So the main party's role is to really kind of oversee, supervise it well, see that it is happening as per the protocol. So
Right.
I can just say that at this point, probably like the main goal is that uh, the municipality should try to reach out to
Mm-hmm.
most of the people from where the waste collection is happening. They
Mm-hmm.
should kind of reduce the gap in terms of what is being generated versus what is being collected. That is the first part, right? Then the second part is also that there should be enforcement cannot come just by preaching it like, okay, we should do it, right? There should be penalties, there should be some sort of like examples which allow people to, because like I will give you a very interesting example which I have been thinking about for last 10 years. So you may have seen, and I think both Mohanji and Kishorji will also agree with me. For example, helmet for the two wheelers or the bikers, and let's say the car seat belt for those who are driving car, right? Is for whom? It is for the riders. It is for
Yeah,
the drivers, right?
correct.
But how many times do we see that people are actually using them? So they will use them if they know that there will be a certain cameras which are monitoring them. They will use them if they will know that at the next corner there will be a traffic policeman who might be there to catch them and may give them a ticket, but not necessarily internalizing it as, oh, if I am just like going outside, I have to wear the helmet. I have to put a, like a seat belt. I think same thing. If this waste is really going out and not going as part of systematic collection, if every citizen like me, like you, or anyone else start to actually see that what is not being collected and maybe because of how I am handling it, so that itself is essentially, I think, going to help, right? And the last thing, uh, we, I think, blame a lot to the government and the because they are doing what they can do, maybe not necessarily enough, as you also mentioned at the beginning. I agree, it is not being done enough, but I think a lot of things are being done. So I think somewhere there is a paradigm shift is also needed, which is basically saying, as I said, waste, if it is not generated, then it doesn't need to be collected. If it is not generated, it doesn't need to be burned, or and then that is not coming. Now, how we can reduce the waste is by really going for, like generating lesser waste. So that has really come to individuals now. I mean, if
Behavioral
not sure
change is
about, right?
required. Yeah.
Correct. So, I mean, if you look at Amravati, I am not quite sure, but now every small city, like whether it is Swiggy, whether this is Zomato, whether this is Amazon, whether this is Ola, Uber, I mean, mostly, right? These are reaching out. And so what is happening is like these packed supply or some kind of item is coming with some waste. And if
Right.
that waste is not being processed like that, then ultimately it is really going out and being burned. So the answer is like not necessarily like what we can achieve tomorrow, but
Mhm.
for sure, I think we can take examples like from Indore, some cities are there actually who are already example from our country where the waste is definitely far better being managed, if not best,
Right,
right? So
right,
I
right.
think that is one thing I would really support
Right.
here.
Dr. Harish, I just want to talk about the current debate that is being going on, where everyone is talking about that we should be following China's model when it comes to solving air pollution. But we being democratic
Correct.
country, do you feel that अगर हम अपने regulations को implement करें, but a strict regulation that if we see someone burning, a heavy fine should be imposed, and all those enforcement should be in place. Uh, do you think we will be able to follow those kind of enforcement norms?
I mean, I think you are already hinting the answer, right? So, I mean, definitely no. I mean, at least as a citizen and also as someone who knows a little bit on this topic, my answer is no, because in a democratic system, it may be slow, but we should be really going for a more sustainable and affordable and a long sustaining solution than
Mhm.
something which is brute force,
Mm.
right? Which is what, for example, China has done.
Mm.
So all credit to them, their government, because they thought correctly. But that can go totally other way around also if the measures are totally towards not public friendly, but other way around, right? But
But
I
then,
would say,
sorry
I'll
to
just add
uh,
one thing before you. We should look at I think if you want to look at an example, it should be California, not
mhm.
China.
Right.
Because California has been democratic, it has been leading the air
Correct.
pollution war, if you want to say that. They have even stringent norms,
Mm.
US compared to the normal US. They have a very booming economy. They have grown very well, and
Mm.
like number of ownership of car have improved, but still the levels have drastically come down. And I
Right.
think the reason is because it was based on science.
Mm.
It was based on technology and then the kind of political support and administrative support which was there. So
Right. Right.
uh, I will just add one last thing because I feel like something we should be really like talking to. So if you think about, we are a democracy,
Mhm.
and who is accountable to us? We are accountable to us because we are picking our government.
Right.
So while we are saying मोहन जी कि आप सिर्फ विंटर में ही क्यों जो है इसको पब्लिश करते हैं, राइट? वी आर पुटिंग द ओनस ऑन द मीडिया एंड द लाइक द जर्नलिस्ट, राइट?
Mhm.
I would say that who is accountable to us are our corporators, our legislators, I mean MLCs to MPs.
Mhm.
Unless until the public goes to them and say that, so like we are asking for employment, we are asking for better, amenities. If we ask them that we want clean air to
Mhm.
each of our constituency heads, I think like at one point the voice will be too like loud to be ignored. I mean that is the case which we are seeing in Delhi, right?
Make it a vote agenda.
Yeah, I mean, like water and air are the main agenda there now. I mean, if you
Mm.
think about it, I mean,
Correct.
cleaning the Yamuna and cleaning the air in Delhi. So I
Right.
feel that this need to be actually happening at every constituency. We should be like as citizen, as voters, we should really go to our legislator and say that you promised us, and it is
Right.
our right to get clean air. I think then automatically like there will be news outlets can also pick those things what they want to say about it, right?
Definitely, definitely. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Harish, for those interesting comments. I'll come back to you for the final one. Kishore ji, मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहती हूँ that Dr. Harish, he gave a very good example that wearing a helmet is for the safety of the rider, right? Because in case of accidents it's going to save you, but then people only follow when there are strict norms or fines imposed. They themselves don't care about their safety or their life. In the same way, we talk about associating health impacts with air pollution. Now, do you think that the citizens have Like in the Indo-Gangetic Plain, obviously there are a lot of voices from the citizen groups when it comes to air quality, but we have not seen that across the other states in India. So do you think we need to prioritize on the health impacts part to make it a public movement towards air pollution issues?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. We definitely need to connect health issue with the pollution issue, and people immediately realize this and they come forward for mitigation measures. Uh, One thing, and I also agree with Dr. Harish ji. Only difference is I won't uh, discredit the whole system of privatization, because privatization has worked in other countries, even within our country, privatization has worked. But there is a issue of law enforcement, and the issue of helmet and seat belt is a classic examples, which shows that law enforcement can really bring the change in the community. Uh, Whereas, if you look at Amravati some 20 years back, and you would really appreciate this example. 20 years back, my organization had started a movement against polythene use. And there was a law enforcement, and some of the shop owners came forward proactively and they stopped using polythene, selling any stuff in polythene, and people started using cloth bags and all. Even school children had prepared cloth bags distributed among the citizens, and there was a massive movement. Okay, that time I never felt, because we had sat with the municipal corporation and we had given them suggestion that you should implement this in each and every household, and request the citizens to keep two dustbins, green and red, and then give that garbage to the collection center, or so that time municipal corporation started the Ghanta Gadi, uh, the vehicles in every ward that goes from house to house, and they collect the garbage. I never imagined that this would happen in Amravati. This has happened in Amravati. Every citizen came forward, and today you won't see garbage dumps lying in different wards of the city. Mostly, there would be few, barring few examples, but mostly city is very clean. The collection happens quite on time every day, if not alternate day. And but then the question remains where this collected garbage goes. Finally, all the vehicles goes to a dumping ground, and if you look at those dumping grounds, it's horrible. I actually tracked the garbage, went to that. Amravati is known by uh, Amba Devi. There is a temple, Amba temple, and there is a stream which originates through a lake and passes through the city, and then it goes near Bhatkuli. So that's a Amba stream. Now that Amba stream is known as Amba Nala. So that has become a gutter.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
now the city sewage waste goes to this Nala, and even the collected garbage and all the vehicles goes to Bhatkuli, close to Ambanala, and they dump there, and then they burn the garbage. So this is totally crime, where municipal corporation really need to take up both uh, uh, rejuvenating Ambanala, Amba, and make it a Amba stream or river, and also need to take up this garbage recycling unit. If you ask the government, they would say, yes, there is a recycling unit. I have visited when Mr. Abhijit Bangar was collector, and we had given this solution, and he was also handling the charge of municipal corporation. So he was keen in recycling the waste of Amravati city. And that time he said, there is already a recycling unit. Why don't you visit that? We visited. It was debunked. It was just shown on paper so that municipal corporation can show the compliance that there is a recycling unit, and entire garbage of the city goes to that recycling unit situated in Itwara Bazaar, a centrally located place. So it is not working. There is not a single garbage recycling unit. So you can imagine where this waste goes. That goes to
Right.
that dumping ground, and
Mm.
again it comes back through dogs and fire. People simply burn it, and again
Right.
that smoke comes in city. So that's
Correct.
that's what is happening.
So basically, the waste management is taken care at the source because it's clear from
Yeah.
the ground in the
Yes.
cities.
Yes.
However, the treatment is a huge gap.
Yes.
Probably
So
because the
credit goes to citizens. Citizens, they are very careful. They are
Hmm.
sensitive to the issue,
Right. Right.
but ultimately issue of law enforcement and municipal
Also,
corporations.
also, also probably the infrastructure requirement, the amount of waste that is getting generated, probably the infrastructure is not there to treat, and hence it's going
See,
to the dumping grounds.
Dr. Pratima, you can see, you tell me the city is in Maharashtra.
Mm-hmm.
There, if you just Google search, there were protests around Nagpur
Mm-hmm.
because Nagpur city garbage was going to Bhandewadi. There
Okay.
was protest in near Sambhajinagar, today's Sambhajinagar, earlier Aurangabad,
Hmm.
because Aurangabad or Sambhajinagar West garbage used to go close in the nearby village. That those villagers protested.
Mm-hmm.
So even in near Nagpur, Bhandewadi villagers protested. So everywhere, why these protests are happening? And these protests are done by local small villagers, not by urban cities,
Mm-hmm.
because urban waste is getting dumped in the nearby small townships or villages, rural
Mm-hmm.
area. So we should not uh, dump the garbage from location A to location B.
Right.
Every city must recycle its garbage at the source,
Correct.
and it should be mandatory. It is
Definitely.
not happening in the entire Maharashtra. Forget about Amravati.
Mm.
Amravati is no exception.
Right. Right. That is definitely a challenge. Thank you, Kishore जी. I'll come back to you with
Thank
further
you, Pratik.
final comments. मोहन जी, मैं आपसे एक चीज पूछना चाहती हूँ कि यहाँ पे दो तीन चीजें बहुत अच्छी निकल के आई हैं। एक तो स्लम में आज भी लोग लकड़ी का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, और जब ठंडी का सीजन होता है तो हमारे सिक्योरिटी वाले जो होते हैं या इनफॉर्मल कम्युनिटी होता है, हीटिंग के लिए फायरवुड यूज कर रहे हैं। मैं आपसे स्पेसिफिकली पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जैसे कंस्ट्रक्शन एक्टिविटीज जो होती हैं, तो कंस्ट्रक्शन से बहुत सारा धूल निकलता है ना? जो गाड़ियां सामान लेके जाती हैं, रेत वगैरह, उनसे
जी जी।
काफी धूल निकलता है। और जहाँ पे कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है वहां तो सीमेंट और धूल और धक्कड़ बहुत ज्यादा होता है। तो क्या हमारे शहर नियम हमारे शहरों के लिए कोई नियम कानून है जो फॉलो हो रहा है? जैसे सीपीसीबी कहता है कि ग्रीन कवर लगाना चाहिए, जमीन पे पानी का छिड़काव करना चाहिए कि धूल ना उड़े। तो क्या अमरावती में ये चीजें फॉलो हो रही हैं? और क्या पत्रकार भाई लोग इस चीज को कवर करते हैं कि जहाँ पे भी कंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है वो प्रैक्टिस फॉलो कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे हैं?
मुझे लगता है दिक्कत यहीं पर है कि लॉ या फिर नियम जो है उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन सही रूप से नहीं हो पाता है।
हम्म।
और इसी कारण ये जो चुनौती सामने आ रही है कि लोग भी परेशान हैं, और उसके कारण, ये प्रदूषण के कारण जो समस्याएं उत्पन्न हो रही है उसका भी असर दिखाई दे रहा है।
हम्म।
जहां तक सवाल है पत्रकारों का, तो निश्चित रूप से जहां पर कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट्स जो है, सामाजिक रूप से अमरावती शहर एक ग्रोइंग सिटी होने के कारण यहाँ पर कंस्ट्रक्शन बड़े पैमाने पर हो रहे हैं। तो
हम्म।
उसके कारण व्हीकल्स की एक्टिविटीज भी बढ़ी है।
राइट।
तो डस्ट पार्टिकल्स का तो इशू है ही।
जी।
दूसरा, यहाँ जो अथॉरिटी है
हम्म।
उनको सख्त होने की ज्यादा जरूरत है कि जहां पर भी नियम भंग हो वहां पर निश्चित रूप से वो कार्रवाई करे और उसका उदाहरण प्रस्तुत करे। तो फिर कोई दूसरा ये करने की जरूरत नहीं करेगा।
जी जी बिल्कुल। नहीं, आपने सही सही कहा है कि हमें एक एग्जाम्पल सेट करना होगा, एक जगह दिखा के कि कैसे काम करना है, प्रैक्टिसेस कैसे फॉलो करनी है, तभी शायद दूसरे लोग भी उस चीज को फॉलो कर पाएंगे। मैं आपसे
जी।
एक और सवाल पूछना चाहूंगी कि जैसे यहाँ बहुत बात हो रही है कि गार्बेज की, एंड गार्बेज बर्निंग एक कूड़ा पैदा होगा ही होगा, एंड उसको खत्म करने के लिए या तो जलाया जाएगा या यहाँ कहीं पे उसको डंप कर दिया जाएगा। तो ये एक बहुत ही बड़ा चैलेंज बन गया है, खाली अमरावती के लिए नहीं, बहुत सारे शहरों के लिए ये चीज बन चुका है। और
जी
हम
जी
आए दिन इसके बारे में पढ़ते रहते हैं, और अगर आप देखें बड़े शहरों में तो आग लग जाती है, जो डंपिंग साइट्स होती हैं, लैंडफिल साइट्स। तो हम हमारे जो नागरिक हैं अमरावती के, अब शहरों में तो सारा कूड़ा इकट्ठा हो रहा है और वो डंपिंग ग्राउंड पे जा रहा है, तो क्या अमरावती की जनता जो है इसके बारे में आवाज उठाती है, या हमें मीडिया की तरफ से ज्यादा पुश करना चाहिए इस चीजों के लिए?
मेरे ख्याल से अमरावती शहर की जनता जागरूकता तो निश्चित रूप से बड़ी है। हाउस टू हाउस जो गार्बेज कलेक्शन है वो तो हो रहा है। लेकिन जो जो साफ सफाई रास्तों पर होती है और
हम्म,
वहां पर जो गार्बेज कलेक्शन होता है, तो वो जलाने की प्रक्रिया अभी भी शुरू है। तो
हम्म,
उसको रोकथाम करना सबसे महत्वपूर्ण होगा और सबसे बड़ी बात होगी, क्योंकि क्या होता है उस पर कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है।
जी।
तो वो जलाने के कारण भी धुआं और ये प्रदूषण की समस्या है। और
जी
लोगों में तो जागरूकता बढ़ती है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं कुछ अपवाद होने के कारण ये समस्या अभी तक है।
हाँ, ओके। जी जी, थैंक यू मोहन जी। डॉक्टर फुलेरिया, देयर इज वन क्वेश्चन फॉर यू, आर यू देयर?
Yes, I am
Right,
here.
yeah, yeah. So, because you spoke about couple of things, and in that you had also mentioned that we need to focus on fuel adulteration. But let me just highlight this fact that, whenever I go to different cities and talk to food and civil supplies department, and the moment I talk about fuel adulteration, they always mention that kerosene to khatam ho gaya hai. We only give a liter or two kerosene to the lower income strata, and इसलिए ऑटो रिक्शा में एडल्टरेशन और ये सब का तो बात ही नहीं है. But then you definitely spoke about the fuel density, and hence we have a question on that. And the question is, what is all this ethanol blended fuel doing to our emissions? Also, is filling our car using 95 octane or 100 octane fuel actually doing our environment a favor?
Okay. I mean, okay. So, I will answer this question first and then I will come back to the illustration part. So, I mean, basically, the ethanol blending or this EBP program is, I mean, it's an amazing program for multiple things because not only it is really towards empowering, for example, the producers of ethanol, like which is coming from a lot of waste kind of things, or even agricultural byproducts, right, from bagasse, sugarcane residue, etc. So this is really to empower those as well as to improve, for example, now carbon neutral. So we are all the time talking about air pollution.
Yeah,
But if you think about a global problem, that is of global warming. And that is where, I mean, we make more efficient engines and
right,
we will add more carbon dioxide, right? So
correct.
if target to become right neutral, so that can only be achieved by using, for example, those carbon products which are bio produced, right? So I think in that sense it is important. Now, how does it really affect? I think already our transportation minister Nitin Gadkari ji have already said about it. There are several, I think, programs where this has been already told that this is not necessarily going to affect the, for example, the engine performance. This is actually going to be at par like with the others, and this is actually adding oxygen to the fuel. So it is actually going to be better in terms of the combustion. So definitely it is good for environment. This is good for farmers. This is good for the carbon neutrality and let's say the reaching out to the NDC goals that we have.
Mhm.
Now, I think one question was on. Uh, yeah, I mean, basically octane rating, right? So octane rating is again like how, for example, we can make it ideal formula, right, for our fuel. So yes, a higher octane number definitely is the one which has lesser kind of, let's say, anti-knocking, etc. Knocking, sorry. So which means that like the vehicle performance is better. But as
Mhm.
far as the emissions are concerned, I think like the bio-blending program or let's say adding ethanol this is not happening in transportation now. This is going to happen in this in the civil aviation
Interesting.
also, right? We have
Okay.
already like the approved programs for them across the world. So I think that is really definitely a good thing too, which is happening.
Great. Dr. Harish, final comments from you. As a researcher, we clearly see that there's a lot of data gap and technology is the solution. So what should be India's or Amravati's next step of action in 30 seconds?
Okay, good. So, in 30 seconds, so I will just iterate what you said. If we really want to find solutions for problems, we need to identify the problems, which will require problem to be identified at even a hyper local scale. So then having like these crores of investment with CA, QMS, like that is not possible. So we need to have some kind of a hybrid measurement system. We can have some sensors, which should be regularly, for example, low cost sensors, which should be regularly, let's say, calibrated.
Mhm.
Then law enforcement, for example, then also phasing out vehicles. It has been seen in Delhi and some of the places. But the last thing, which is I think the main thing I want to really say is, see, whenever we talk about air pollution problem, we pin to one particular source and then
Mhm.
stuck there. It is
Right.
not that the Amravati's problem will be solved if the waste burning, which is like not getting collected that efficiently, is going to be resolved. Still, the problems will be there because a
Yep.
small portion of the total is what this is contributing. So the
Correct.
solution will be only coming from the comprehensive assessment, a longer time framework, and then also setting up further studies where even local kind of impact of air pollution on health, etc., can also be examined, which require participation from like local government institutions, researchers, and community to engage
Right.
together. Yeah, that's what I
Definitely.
would say. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you, Dr. Harish. Kishorji, I would want to ask you, are you there? Yes. So, according to you, what should be the next steps of action to create awareness, not only for waste burning, but also to reduce the use of firewood for cooking in the slums or heating in the winter time? What strategy should be there, and how do we create awareness on that?
Okay, so means basically this is not the problem in most of uh, the Maharashtra or most of the country because LPG has reached out to poorest of the poor.
Right.
But still, there are some cities which are very close to forest areas, and this is the problem of forested townships or villages.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever there is a free resource, people tend to get that free resource and use it for as a fuel wood and for
Right.
cooking purpose. Why they should spend money for buying LPG if
Ji.
there is a free resource? And
Right.
this is the issue. Even if government has given subsidy and provided LPG gas cylinders in each and every village, still after getting that subsidy, villagers again started reusing the chulas.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it
so
has to
I
be a
think
sustainable
it
solution.
has to be sustainable solution, and then the government would withdraw the subsidy. So
Mm.
that should not happen. It should be sustainable, and even there are such areas within the bigger townships like Amravati. So
Mm.
this problem would be there just in 5% of the total uh, city. So this
Mm.
is not by and large the problem of the city. But
Mhm.
this can be tackled by just uh, providing jobs to these this community, and so that they can. I would just give one example in Pinch Tiger Reserve. Um, lady guides were deployed, and because of their financial stability, they first invested in getting the LPG connection. So nobody want to go to the forest and collect the fuel wood and then cook the food. So
Correct.
if they have the capacity to pay, definitely they would pay for buying LPG. That's a
Right.
problem of livelihood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very important point, very important point, because women are the one who go and fetch the firewood. So why would they trouble themselves
And
if
they suffer a lot
yeah, definitely.
health-wise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. थैंक यू श्री किशोर जी। मोहन जी, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगी कि आपका टारगेट क्या है पिछले आने वाले 1 साल में? आप किस तरीके की स्टोरीज पे फोकस करेंगे जिससे और अवेयरनेस क्रिएट हो, एयर पोल्यूशन के बारे में जागरूकता बढ़े, और ना ही सिटीजन्स के लिए ही बट हमारे पत्रकारों के लिए भी?
जी बिल्कुल। मुझे तो खुशी होगी कि अगर मैं इस विषय पे कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकूं। यहाँ जहाँ तक महानगर पालिका म्युनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन का सवाल है, तो बायो माइनिंग जो प्रोजेक्ट है, उन्होंने जल्द से जल्द उसको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन किया करना चाहिए। उसके ऊपर ज्यादा फोकस करना चाहिए, और इसके आधार पर ही मैं कुछ करना चाहूंगा। और रही दूसरी बात कि अमरावती शहर में पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट की जो कमजोर कड़ी है, उसको दूर करने के लिए मैं अगर स्टोरी करूं तो उसका भी असर मेरे ख्याल से दिखाई देगा कि वो चीज कितनी महत्वपूर्ण है लोगों के स्वास्थ्य के लिए भी, उनके एक व्यवस्था जो सुचारू रूप से शहर में होनी चाहिए उसके आधार पर भी। तो सामाजिक रूप से 1 साल भर में मैं इस विषय पे ज्यादा कोशिश करूंगा कि फोकस करूं। और दूसरी बात, अमरावती शहर के लोग अवेयर तो है ही, उनके अवेयरनेस बढ़ाने के लिए अगर कोई संस्था आगे आना चाहिए तो उनके साथ में भी मैं कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहूंगा। जी।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, कोलैबोरेशन एक जरूरी है। सबको साथ में मिलके काम करना है। एकेडमिशियंस हैं, सिटीजन ग्रुप्स हैं, मीडिया हाउस है या गवर्नमेंट है, सब लोग जब तक मिलके काम नहीं करेंगे, हम इस कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व नहीं कर पाएंगे। तो ये बहुत ही अच्छा आपका विचार है। और इसी अच्छे विचार के साथ मैं इस पैनल डिस्कशन को समाप्त करना चाहूंगी। आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आप हमारे साथ जुड़े और इतने अच्छे पॉइंट्स इस डिस्कशन से बाहर आए हैं। आप सबका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you. Thank you.
धन्यवाद प्रतिमा।
ओवर टू यू
नमस्कार।
थैंक यू।
श्वेता,
थैंक
इफ यू
बाय।
वांट टू गिव द कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स।
Thank you so much, Dr. Pratima, for moderating the session with such finesse. I would like to thank all our panelists, Mohan ji, Kishor ji, and Harish ji, for taking out time and participating in this conversation. So I feel that we have covered everything around the issue of pollution in this discussion, right from policy frameworks to discussing about the source and solutions to awareness, sensitivity, and behavioral change. So, and I think that we all have pretty good points, pretty good takeaways from this discussion. And iForest is committed to encourage such conversations on various platforms. So we will be moving this forward and taking this up on on our social media channels as well, and sharing the findings on all our social media platforms. So stay tuned with us as we come back with another episode of Smog Tales on 3rd December. Where we will be talking about the air pollution in Nagpur. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.